taken that position. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Paul Goldsmith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure to speak on this bill. I have to admire the indefatigable nature of Mr. Cosgrove. There's no doubt we fought an election on this very issue, and where it was front and centre right throughout the election, front and centre, and they lost. And so this legislation, the legislation for the mixed ownership model program, was brought before the House, and Mr. Cosgrove fought very valiantly there at every stage, at every step, and through the select committee process. And now, having failed in that area, we now have this bill here. And I, of course, don't want to engage in any ad hominem attacks. Like I say, I spent the weekend listening to the Remuera Lunch Club, where they raised that matter of the House engaging in all sorts of attacks, and we need to work together. And so I want to focus on the broader issues of this bill and the broader constitutional issue about how often we should be constraining ourselves in this way. And it seems to me that this bill, which is requiring 75% support for the government to sell such things, would want to freeze frame the current situation, the current status, the current asset list of the government forever and a day. This government is creating new assets all the time, every day. And if we were to pass this bill, we would certainly be reducing the flexibility of the government and our ability to respond to circumstances as they arrive. And I do find it hard to imagine that Mr. Cosgrove would be introducing such a bill if indeed he was in government. And so I'll be very interested to see. I am a little bit nervous that this bill won't pass this time round, but I will keep a copy of it, and I'll be very interested to see whether in 10 years or 9 years' time, when Mr. Cosgrove does get another chance to be a minister, whether he introduces this bill, because I don't think he would like to have it constraining his activity when he's in government. And I suppose the broader question is whether indeed I've been hosting these 40 or 50 young people in this building at the moment, and they're trying to work out how whether the country needs a new constitution, whether we need to change our constitutional arrangement. And this very issue of whether government should be shackled by entrenched legislation is one of the ones that they're wrestling with at the moment. And there's only two bills, I understand, only two pieces of legislation which are entrenched in this way. So and they relate to some very fundamental aspects of our governmental arrangement. So to throw this one into the box alongside them does seem rather bizarre. But it is worth restating before I finish just why we are involved in this mixed ownership model process, and that's all about building a more competitive and productive economy based on savings and investment, and moving away from debt and borrowing, relying on foreign lenders. And in essence, this program is about freeing up some of the capital that we have held up in minority stakes in these large companies, and allowing the government to purchase new assets without borrowing more on financial markets at this difficult time. And that's a very sound and sensible policy. The opposition I accept, don't agree with it, but unfortunately they lost the argument, and so here we are, we're at this bill. They're filling the ballot with all sorts of strange pieces of legislation at the moment, and so I'm afraid I will not be supporting it. Thank you very much.
Call Andrew Williams.